Hey everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with the Hump Day edition of Today in Sports Betting. I'm joined as always by my partner in crime. It's Mr. Scott Reichel. Scott, little more color than you usually have down there, if I'm not mistaken.
Something like that. I ended up falling asleep in the sun, which was an experience. And yeah, I'm paying the consequences. But I can still move. It's not that bad, even though it might look terrible. But either way, it eventually blends out and becomes a tan. So that's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah, well, at least you're in Florida. We'd have fallen asleep outside here over the last week or so. We'd have woken up like Jack Nicholson in The Shining. So,
Yeah.
yeah, very good. So, congratulations on getting yourself a little February sunburn. That's I think the rest of us, our hearts really break for you there, bud.
I'm sure they are.
All right, so we've got a little action cooked up for this evening, and got one game there in the college ranks between ranked teams. Not sure both of them should be ranked, but Arkansas has been on a nice run, so yeah, we'll take a look at them. They've won 7 of 8, so I don't want to diminish what the Hogs have done down there in Fayetteville. So we're looking at the Alabama and Arkansas. Scott, Arkansas is a 2-point home favorite here, and looks like the total on that one is 158.5. What you got here, buddy?
Well, I think it's worth mentioning the money so far has come in on Arkansas. Arkansas originally opened up at +1, now a favorite in pretty much every spot at around -1.5, even some -2s popping up.
A lot of
Makes
money.
sense.
Yep.
Arkansas is 13-1 straight up at home this season, 9-4 against the spread. And had Arkansas money line in the one home game they lost? This guy. So this is definitely an Arkansas team that has burned me in the past, but I will give props to this team. Seemed to rally the troops a little bit, had a midseason struggle, losing 3 out of 4 at Tennessee, at LSU, and then got killed by Bama in the first meeting by 31 points. However, ever since then, this team has won 7 of 8 and has covered in 6. Well, yeah, it has covered in 6 of those games. So it has actually played pretty well lately. The question is, Bama has still been playing really well, won 3 in a row. And we already saw these teams played once, and Bama took them behind the woodshed. Should Arkansas be a favorite in this game? Probably not. Having said that, it is worth mentioning, though, that Arkansas is 4-4 straight up on the road, and I already said that 13-1 straight up at home. So this team has definitely been night and day in comparison to where they're actually playing. I'll probably go with Arkansas here. It just seems like a spot where Arkansas seems to really just benefit from home court advantage, even though most teams in the country do not. And I think Arkansas should also have a little bit of a chip on its shoulder after getting embarrassed in the last meeting. It is also worth mentioning there has been a lot of money on the over.
Mm-hmm.
It has gone from around, I'd say, 155 to around 158.5. You have seen a ton of movement towards the over, which makes perfect sense. Bama plays at one of the fastest pace in the country. Arkansas is not far behind. So if you're expecting a track meet between these two teams, that's probably what you're going to get. But it is also worth mentioning the first meeting between these teams, I know Arkansas's offense didn't show up, only scoring 59 points, but that totals at 166.5, and the game landed at 149. So is the total too high? Maybe, but it is worth mentioning that there has been a lot of over money, and it's mostly because of pace of play.
Well, that Arkansas team shot dreadfully in that first game. They were 4-17 from deep, and just 21 of 63 from the field in general, and that's I'm no math major, but I'm pretty sure that's 33.3%, and that's not good.
I'd still lean over in this game. As you just mentioned, the shooting issues for Arkansas in that game, the point remains they still gave up 90. So even if Arkansas puts together a little bit of a better performance there, you can maybe break 70, and you're looking at a game that still lands in the 160s, even though Arkansas got killed in that game.
Well, let me tell you something, bud. You shoot like that, you miss that many shots and get out rebounded by almost 10 rebounds. You're going to give up some points. That's just the way that's going to work out. So
I'm still going to lean over. I think this game probably gets into the low 160s. The question is, can you see both teams reaching 80 in this matchup? And the truth is, I can. I'm assuming you agree with that.
Yeah, it's I'm not so sure I'm as locked in as you are. Although this
I'm not officially playing it. I'm just saying I think that a total this high in college, you better have a good reason. And I think both these teams' paces alone mixed with the usual shooting ability for both teams, should lead to a pretty high-scoring game.
Well, Alabama went through a run where they played really good defense, where they gave up 66 to Oklahoma, they gave up 60 to LSU, gave 68 to Mizzou, which that's playing some decent defense. But they've kind of fallen down lately. Giving up 78 to Vanderbilt, that's not good. Especially
78 to Vanderbilt, 78 to South Carolina, and then beat Georgia 115 to 82.
Yeah, hung 115 on the Dogs. Yeah, that's what you like the side better, or you like the total better?
Truth is, I'm still on the fence about both. I think I'd probably feel a little bit better on the side because even though Alabama has won 3 in a row, it beat 3 pretty weak teams in the SEC, and it failed to cover in 2 of them. On the road, you barely beat South Carolina, and at home, you barely beat Vanderbilt. Not the greatest performances from Alabama. I think Arkansas should end up putting together a good performance here. I like Arkansas, but am I going to pick them with my own personal money? I'm still a little bit scarred, so probably not. But I think you would agree it's a little bit interesting that a team that lost by 31 in the first meeting has gone from +2 to -1.5.
Does seem like the books are trying to give us a little bit of the old okey doke there, Scott.
What it seems like to me. So for me, I'll lean Arkansas.
All right. So as always, you say I'm not investing my money, but here's how you should bet.
Well, I'm saying that I invest in a lot of games. It's just this isn't one of them that I'm intrigued by.
All right. I like it. Arkansas team at home. They're a different beast on the road. Not nearly as confident as they are at home, but they have been very good on the road and very good at home. Rather, it's worth saying they've won 7 of 8, covered 6 of them. So, I think we've got 2 surprisingly good teams there in the SEC. As some of the regular blue bloods there in the SEC have not had great seasons, including, of course, Kentucky.
Arkansas usually gets in. They're usually just around a 9 seed or something.
Yeah, they're doing their thing. They're sneaking in. I'll probably back them a little more enthusiastically than you will, just because this Bama defense, especially on the road, I just don't think I trust them that much. So
that's fair.
Probably, I don't know about chasing that late steam on the over.
That's what I'm saying. I'd lean over, but I do feel like a lot of value is already gone.
Yeah, I would felt better 4 points ago. So, All right, might take an in-game shot there and see how the game flow's going. That's certainly in the realm of possibility as well. I know you and I for the first time in 3 days did not match up on our one of our plays of the day. And anything else get your attention there as far as plays go? We talked about you got the game there in the MEAC as far as your play of the day, and I've got one from the Southland Conference. So that it leaves us a lot of room if there's anything else that you want to talk about in there. Anything grabby? Anything got your attention?
Well, going through the line here, I thought about maybe taking a stab with Stephen F. Austin.
Yeah.
It was -9 last night. It's up to around -10. Still a couple 9.5s around, though, against Northwestern State. I know I gave out a play today on Stephen F. Austin against Northwestern State earlier this season, and they didn't cover by, I believe, about half a point off of a 3-pointer basically at the buzzer, which was kind of upsetting. But Stephen F. Austin killed them in the first game before they brought the bench unit in for about the last 2 minutes, and the bench unit gave it up. But Stephen F. Austin's still one of the best teams in the conference. Northwestern State is not. So I wouldn't be surprised to see SF Austin roll in that spot. Now, looking at the rest of the betting card, overall, really don't see a lot that I'm really interested in. Just going down the line here, I don't really see much. I think that there are a couple of games you can maybe find some values on totals. I know there has been a lot of line movement on some totals. For example, the North Carolina game went from 142.5 to 145.5. They had the Temple South Florida game that's dropped from around 136.5 to 134. So there has been a lot of movement on some of these games for totals. For spreads, I really haven't noticed that much. There's been a couple of games that have had some big moves, but for the most part, seems like most of the lines are holding serve from last night.
A couple of home dogs. kind of have my attention here. Well, one of them's a home dog. One of them isn't. The Miami, Florida is.
Yeah.
I don't hate that, catching 11.5. That's a ton of points. Florida State, very good team, not necessarily the most consistent team in the world.
So I'm not sure what to think of Florida State from a tournament perspective, because that team has the talent to make a run, but they just fall apart. Seems like every fourth game where you just can't trust them. You just don't know what they're doing for about a half.
Well, and another team like that is Creighton, where you about the time you're like, well, they're going to win, but they're not going to cover. They beat somebody by 30 points, and they're throwing 15 to DePaul, and DePaul obviously not having a great season at all, but that's a lot of points, man. That's a lot of points in a competitive conference.
It is a lot of points. If I was looking at that game in particular, I'd probably look towards the over. I know there has been a lot of money going in. It has gone from 142 to around 145.5 or so. But DePaul offensively does have some talent. I know that Moore is a pretty solid point guard. Scored 88 in its last game against St. John's, but St. John's is starting to fall off a cliff again. But Creighton at home, we know how good this team is offensively. Dropped 86 on Villanova in its last home game. I wouldn't be surprised to see it drop potentially 90 in this spot. So I'd probably lean over in the Creighton game.
Well, and I'll give you another game to look at, Scott, and that's the Tennessee-Vanderbilt game.
Oh, I get to talk about Tennessee. That's a team that's very, very consistent,
Well, yeah, but this Vanderbilt team
teams all over.
is surprisingly good against the number. They're 6-12 on the season straight up, 12-5 against the spread. So they're a team that gets frustratingly close on a lot of occasions. So they haven't lost a game against the spread, Scott, since the 23rd of January, when they were kind of run out of the building. Well, they lost by 21 to Arkansas, but since then they have not lost a game against the spread, despite just winning 2 games straight up. So if you want to take a spin on a live dog there, you could do worse. You could do worse than the Vanderbilt Commodores.
I think you have to consider it, especially since Tennessee has just completely been underwhelming over the last couple of weeks. You want to actually go through the results here. A couple of really brutal losses. Some of them weren't even close, especially losing at home to Kentucky over the weekend by 15.
That's not good.
That's not good. They arguably should have lost the first meeting against Kentucky. I know that it ended up winning by 11. It trailed for about the first 30 minutes of that game. We're going on a massive run late. So Tennessee has found ways to win games, but you go through their actual point spread luck and just everything that they've done this season, really not great. And I know Rick Barnes is regarded as being a very solid basketball coach. I have never really been a big fan of his.
I was going to say, that's what everybody keeps telling me.
I've never been a big fan of his because I feel like his teams always just underachieve in the tournament.
Yeah,
if you want to look at his career, you think to yourself, like, Rick Barnes, this guy's won a ton of games. That is true. His record in the tournament is not very good. You want to guess what – he's played 48 games in the NCAA tournament. You want to guess what his record is?
48 games in the NCAA tournament. His
this isn't all with Tennessee, of course, but still.
No, most of it's at Texas. His record is 22-26.
He's 24-24.
Damn it.
Very close, though.
Damn it. So close.
People keep saying, Rick Barnes, he's got this team playing well. Does he? Does he really have this team playing well? Like, I don't know. I don't know about that one. I don't think Barnes is a great coach, but I think he's serviceable in the college game. But I think Jerry Stackhouse actually done a decent job at Vanderbilt. This team was supposed to be awful, and this team's actually been hanging around in some of these games. Now, would I want to go to the window with Vanderbilt money line? No.
No.
Really? For a live dog, I really wouldn't want to do that, but I don't want to lay 8 with Tennessee. I mean, this team has – I think it already peaked about 2 months ago.
Yeah, they're
it's a bad sign when your team changes up its style of play in the middle of the season. Because Tennessee was playing really, really slowly, playing a ton of unders earlier in the season, and I had a play today on one of the unders, and it flew under by like 20-something points. And then over the last couple of games, Tennessee was on a losing streak, and Rick Barnes said, you know what? We're going to play faster now. We're going to play really, really up-tempo. And I'm like, you really just pulled a 180 on your style of play because your team's that bad? It just seemed like an interesting move to me. It's one thing if you want to ease into it. They went from playing games in around the 120s to games in the 160s in the
Yeah.
span of like 2 days,
Yeah.
which I don't really agree with as a strategy, but, we'll see what happens.
Well, you're trying to maximize your personnel,
I guess. I'm just saying you go from one side of the spectrum to the other side of the spectrum in terms of pace. That seems a little bit excessive.
Yeah, and money seems to be coming in on Tennessee. So if you do have interest in playing that,
Because people have been betting against Vanderbilt all season long.
I understand. Just if you have interest in that game, keep an eye on it because you might be able to eke out another half point or so. So,
Mhm.
all right, my friend. Well, that's one down, and taking a look here in the old NBA for tonight. We've got a couple of games on the telly. Golden State making a rare appearance on the East Coast. Well, not really, but Eastern time zone as they take on the Indiana Pacers. They're at 6:30 Eastern time. Starting to get some fans back in the stands. That's good. Scott, if you wanted to go to a basketball game in New Orleans, you could pay as low as $8. Did you know that?
I did not know that. But that also doesn't include the flight. So it would be a little bit more than that.
Minor detail.
Minor detail.
Golden State against the Indiana Pacers. See what we got here for numbers as I switch over to the old NBA. Pacers -2. Scott, what do you got on this one?
So for this one, I'm kind of torn because I think it's a good spot for Golden State, but on the other hand, this team could be potentially fatigued after having a pretty intense game against the Knicks yesterday that came down to the wire. Golden State won by 8, but at the end, it was pretty close. It was about a 1-point game with about 2 minutes to go. And now you have to play a back-to-back with travel involved, not exactly the greatest. But Golden State's been playing, I'd say, a little bit the way it has been all season long, which is pretty consistently average, which I think is a good way to put it. Indiana, on the other hand, though, has started to play a little bit better, winning 3 of 4. But this team still, for me, leaves a lot to be desired. Now, a lot of it's not the Pacers' fault because anytime you trade away arguably your third best player in Oladipo and you get a replacement and the replacement isn't able to play all season because you end up finding out he has cancer from one of the checkups, you basically just lost a 20-point score for nothing for the rest of the season. So I'm not surprised this team's offense has struggled ever since Oladipo got moved. I'm probably going to go to Golden State here. I understand if you want to take Indiana, but Golden State finally has gotten its big men back. Wiseman's back. Looney's back. I think this team finally has enough body on the interior to not get killed on the boards. I think Sabonis will have a big game, though, as he got snubbed from an All-Star game appearance, and I do think that he will put together a good performance. But I just don't think anyone can guard Curry, and I think that the Warriors, with a bunch of their big men back, should have looked more competent in the middle. So for me, I'll lean Golden State with the points, but this is one of those games where, I have personal issues with both these teams. So it's kind of just pick your poison at that point.
Yeah, I'm looking at this Indiana team. I'm trying to figure out their best win, and I don't see many of them.
There really aren't.
They've every time they've played a team with a pulse, they have done a remarkable job of not showing up.
Yep.
So this is it's kind of a weird travel spot for Golden State. They played back to back on the 19th and 20th. Then they had 2 days off. They played and then they played the 23rd, obviously yesterday against New York. And they play again today back to back. So they're playing 2 back-to-backs in a row with 2 days off in between. So it's just a weird little thing on the road schedule there. That defense has been playing better since they've gotten their big men back. I'd be tempted by the under. I know Indiana doesn't play a great deal of defense, and like you said, they have won 3 of 4. The Murderers Row that they've beaten have been Detroit, Atlanta, and Minnesota.
You forgot the one loss there, though, was at home against Chicago.
I didn't forget it. I was going to get to it, but they lose by 8 to the Bulls. Yeah, if you got to play that one, I don't see any way to back the Pacers. I would play Golden State. Probably play the under too. I think 231 just sounds like a ton.
I would probably look towards, if you have a legal book on FanDuel, for example, that does player performance doubles, where you can bet on a player, for example, to have a double-double mixed with a team money line. Take something with Sabonis, because if the Pacers are going to win this game, Sabonis is probably going to go for 30, 15, and 4. because Sabonis is a damn madman. I'm assuming you'd agree with that, because I really don't see how Indiana can keep pace with Golden State unless Sabonis just eats.
Yeah, they ain't going to do it on the wings, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's good play. All right, and then our other game, Scott, is possible preview of the Western Conference Finals over there as the LA Lakers travel to the banks of the Great Salt Lake to take on Salt Lake City. The Utah Jazz. Salt Lake City. You take on the Utah Jazz. Utah, Scott, 9-point favorites here. What does that mean? What does that tell you without even looking it up?
Tells me that Anthony Davis is not playing and that the Lakers are awful without Anthony Davis and Dennis Schroeder.
That's probably that's exactly right. I was just trying to see if anybody else was hurt. That seems like
well, Schroeder's still out, which also is an underrated deal.
Yeah, and of course he's got the COVID, so we'll have to see how he comes back because yeah, this is a Lakers team hasn't been good lately. Scott lost 3 straight, 4 or 5, failed to cover, of course, 4 or 5 as well. Their one win.
Who told you that Washington was alive in the last game?
What's that?
Who told you that Washington was alive in the last game?
Yep, I know you did.
I did. That's right.
They were, and it was a game that the Lakers had the lead most of the time, and let them come back, just like KU did last night, buddy. Just like KU had a big lead, pissed it away, and much the same as the Lakers did here. I was surprised they did that. I was surprised that once they got out in front of it, they let them come back. I did not think that would happen there at home.
I was more surprised they got out to a huge lead. I think the Washington was about 8-1 at halftime to win the game.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised that Washington came out and that the game was close. I still think that this stretch is really, really funny because of the fact that the Lakers can't win a game without Anthony Davis and Dennis Schroeder, and yet LeBron's MVP odds have gone down, even though in terms of most valuable, they can't win without their second best player. So I do find that kind of funny, but it just shows that nobody cares. Like LeBron's going to win the award.
Yeah, everybody keeps saying that, and I keep saying it's possible, but it's too early. I think laying anything in the 2-1 range of LeBron winning the MVP is insanity.
Well, now he's even money.
Yeah, that's nuts.
I'm just going based on what I've seen from the marketplaces and everything like that. I mean, I told you I got in at 280, which was a good price at the time because it dropped immediately after that.
Yeah, well,
I wouldn't vote for LeBron. This team can't win without its second best player. He's supposed to be MVP if you can't right the ship without some help.
And they have a long time to figure that out too, bud. It's too early to get involved with that to lay that kind of a short prize.
Yeah, so, plus 100, I wouldn't, but realistically, I think it's kind of set in stone.
I think you've got a dog at 280. That's my opinion. You may get paid off, but taking an MVP in January at plus 280 is the definition of insanity to me.
Well, my argument was that I knew the line would drop, and now it's at even money.
Well, you're one 38-year-old or 36-year-old knee injury away from having that be just a worthless piece of paper.
Correct, but I figured
I wouldn't give you 3-1 that LeBron doesn't miss 10 games with injury.
I think, well, based on the fact that LeBron's played every game this season, it seems like he's actively trying to win MVP.
Well, that means nothing.
No, I know. I'm just saying that I did notice that LeBron seems to be really engaged on a personal accolade that I guess he's salty about not winning for the last couple of years, even though he probably didn't deserve to win it for the last couple of years.
Right.
But, LeBron wants to be the greatest of all time, even though I don't think he'll ever be that. But, he's going to pat his, trophy case.
Well, I think it's funny that, you talk about the greatest of all time and the conversation goes to Jordan or LeBron, while Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is like, hello, anybody remember me at all? Completely changed the game. Was the all-time leading scorer for a long time.
It's amazing how Jabbar's numbers would be even better if he just barely even went to college.
What do you mean?
It was a matter of him having to go to UCLA and spend a couple of years there where LeBron just went straight from high school.
Oh yeah, if he had 2 more years of because he dominated at UCLA from the get-go. So had a pretty good run of centers there at UCLA, didn't they?
Well, with Walton and with the Will Cinder, realistically, Kareem's the best college player of all time. It just,
It's certainly possible. Yeah, that's
I think he
you can.
lost one game in his entire career.
Well, pretty good surrounding cast and
Correct. I'm just saying
pretty
that.
good coach.
Well, they had to change the rule because of him. They banned dunking for about a year.
I just said that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So when you have a rule change to try to make it,
They banned it for a lot longer than that, my friend.
yeah. While he was there, I'm just saying that when you have to change the rules of the game just because you're too dominant, it's usually a good sign that you're one of the greatest players of all time in college basketball.
So then you're admitting that Bob Cousy and all of his championships is one of the greatest basketball players of all time.
No, people make that argument about Bill Russell. People think Russell is one of the all-time greatest players. I am a little bit more on the fence about that because you have 9 Hall of Famers on the same roster. That definitely helps your chances. But I acknowledge the fact that Russell won a bunch of championships and he's an all-time great defensive player. But people try to throw him into the GOAT conversation because he has double-digit rings. What does he have? 9? Does he have 9 or does he have double-digit rings?
I think he's got 10. I'm not sure.
I think he's got something like that. But people throw him in there, and I'm just like, nope. I wouldn't throw him in there.
Probably the greatest defensive player of all time.
Yeah, I will concede that point. But when you're going up against centers who are not named Wilt, who are about 6'6", I think it's going to be easier to put up dominant stats.
Yeah, he did play against a lot of slow, goofy white guys. There's no question about that.
And then you had Wilt. So and then you had Russell and everybody else. That's pretty much
then you had Wilt. So yeah.
Either way, anyway, kind of got sidetracked. But the point I'm trying to say is that I do find it funny that most valuable player, they got to change the name of the award because falling apart without your second best player and without probably your third or fourth best player is not good evidence that you should win MVP.
The very definition of not being the MVP on your own team.
I wouldn't vote for LeBron. If I had a vote, I'd vote for Embiid.
Yeah.
But I don't have a vote. So I personally think LeBron is probably going to win the award. Plus, Jokic put up 41 last night, which is also a pretty solid performance.
You got any interest in backing the Lakers here?
No, not at all. Looking at this matchup here, just Utah is just a team possessed. This team's won 10 of 11. And it's
nine, Scott? 9? You're going to lay 9 with Utah against the world champions?
I'm going to find 8.5, and I'm going to take 8.5. But it's just looking at this matchup here, I can't do it. You look at the Lakers, this team has struggled offensively pretty much all season long. But you look at the numbers since AD got injured, you're looking at some pretty pathetic showings here. You had 112 against Minnesota, which they won the game, but Minnesota gave up 139 last night to Milwaukee. So scoring 112 there is not that great. Played against Brooklyn, whose defense has gotten better but still not very good, scored 98. Played Miami, scored 94. And played Washington, scored 124, and that game went to overtime. Either way, decent offensive showing there, but Washington's defense is terrible. Utah's defense is the second best defense in the league. According to defense efficiencies, this team defensively is great. And offensively, shocker, Utah's also in the top 3 because this team is ridiculous. And you look at Utah, this team doesn't just win, this team wins and covers.
Yeah.
So the thing about the Lakers, which I think makes it worse for them, is because of the fact that a lot of their opponents don't care about who's injured. They see the defending champions on the schedule, and you know what they do? They circle the hell out of the game. And I think Utah looks at this game and basically says, I don't care if Anthony Davis is playing. I don't care if he's not playing. I don't care if LeBron's not playing. If we want to be the best team in the West, we have to kill this team. So I think Utah should be motivated. I think Utah will come out at home. 14-2 at home straight up the season. So this team's been very good at home as it normally is. And the Lakers, I'm not surprised they kind of fell apart. I'm just saying that it definitely does not look good for them in the spot when you're getting run out by Brooklyn without KD and you're losing to Miami and Washington at home. And now you have to travel on the road to face off against probably the best team in the league right now based on regular season performance. I got to take Utah because I just don't see it from the Lakers. Unless LeBron goes for about 35, I just don't see it. I just think Utah is going to kill this team.
All right, well, good enough. And they've been very strong at home. They've outscored their opponents by 12 points per game at home. They're 13-3 to the number.
The Lakers also can't shoot threes, and Utah is one of the best three-point shooting teams in the league, which I think also plays a factor because Utah can just put up 130 on any given night with the amount of three-pointers. Are they going to do that? Are they going to do that against the Lakers? Probably not. But I do think it's a lot easier for Utah to score in any given possession based on the current lineups they have than it is for Los Angeles. Because this team offensively without AD has just been a disaster. I think you'd agree with that.
Yeah, we've touched on that many times. That
I'm assuming you also like Utah on the spot.
no, no,
Really?
I'm not touching this. I'm not laying 9 points against the Lakers.
What about 8.5?
No, just not. No.
Okay, I'm looking at 8.5, and I'm intrigued.
No, I think this team still has pride. They're no, not doing it.
Okay.
If I'm playing anything, I'm playing Lakers money line plus 320.
Okay.
But probably won't do that. But I just and you could be right. I'm just not necessarily ready to hand over the crown to Utah a third of the way or half or not quite halfway through the season, about 45.
I'm not handing over the crown. I'm handing over the crown with AD out.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see, bud. And the public certainly agrees with you. They pounded this number down from 6.5 up to 9. So you're right there with the public, buddy. Feel better about that?
Well, when you have that big of a line move in that much of a primetime game, means you probably have some sharp money on that as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look at the history of the line move though.
I'm actually curious.
Primetime game in the Lakers, that seems like a public fade to me.
I'm actually kind of curious what the percentage would be from sharp compared to public, because I'm sure the public would just blindly bet on LeBron anyway, getting 7 points, getting 7.5 points. Even though Utah's a great team, the public I feel like would just blindly bet the Lakers because they're the Lakers.
Well, 52% of the bets and 57% of the money is coming in, so there's a little bit of a split there.
Yeah,
it doesn't look like a ton of sharp money on the Jazz just yet. So
either way, I'm just saying I just don't see the public going out of their way to fade LeBron.
Dude, the public is always going to they're gonna ride the hot hand. They're gonna think that streak is never gonna end. So.
That's what they should do.
Okay.
But anyway, I'll go with Utah.
All right, very good. Anything else on the card to get your attention?
I think I got to look at Chicago.
Yeah, I was just looking at that same game.
It's a matter of Minnesota changed coaches. Congratulations, you
fade them.
Gave up 139 points.
Fade them. Fade Minnesota at every chance you get.
They got a new coach. Still gave up 139 points. So it's not like this team, shocker, was suddenly going to improve without Flop Saunders behind the bench, because that team is just awful from start to finish. And I know Anthony Edwards has a lot of nice poster dunks and he puts together some very good highlights. Doesn't change the fact that he's averaging 14 points per game while shooting a very, very impressive 37.1% from the floor. He can't shoot, which I think is a problem because he's arguably their second best player. That's not exactly a good look for Minnesota. I know D'Angelo Russell, of course, is realistically their second best player, and he's injured. He's still out indefinitely.
Yep.
Beasley's been a pretty good player this season. But Towns, of course, is very good. But this team played yesterday, got run out of the gym. And I don't think this Minnesota team can guard anybody. And when you're facing off against Zach LaVine, all-star Zach LaVine, I think there's a good chance he goes for 35 because this team can't guard anybody. So, yeah, I got to like Chicago in that spot.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite plays on the board as far as the NBA goes. No question about it.
Also, looking through the card here, I see money's coming in on Atlanta against Boston, mostly fading Boston. I don't want to get involved there. Toronto, Miami should be an interesting game. I would probably lean under there, but I'm not going to touch it. One game that I do find pretty interesting based on the line is the Oklahoma City-San Antonio game. Now, San Antonio is missing a bunch of people because of the fact that, just to go through the line here, DeRozan's out, Rudy Gay's out, Keldon Johnson's out, Vassal's out, Derek White's out, and yet Oklahoma City's only laying 1, which I find pretty interesting because I just named about 4 people in San Antonio's rotation that are not playing.
Yeah.
So I find that line a little bit peculiar. Yeah, I find that interesting. So I would keep an eye on that one, maybe an in-play, potentially in Oklahoma City second half because San Antonio's a bit shorthanded. But, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
You have anything else you want to talk about?
No. I was just looking through here. Fading Houston right now. I'm always interested in that, but taking Cleveland.
Cleveland finally won a game.
Yeah, I know. That's. I don't know if they can win 2 straight. Of course, they're catching 3.5, so they don't actually have to win. But
do you think 214 is too low of a total between Toronto and Miami? Because I can't play it over. If I'm playing, it would be the under.
Yeah, this Miami teams can't score. They both play pretty good defense. Yeah, that'd be an under or pass for me on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course the unders cash 4 straight for Toronto, and they've given up 96 to Milwaukee on the road. That was fairly impressive. So
Definitely was impressive.
Yeah, I would do that. All right, so. All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today. As always, we're interested in if you guys got anything cooked up, drop it in the comment section. Let us know. Let us know what you think of our picks. Let us know what you're on today. If you got anything that's out there cooking with gas, as my dad used to say. And if you're looking for more information on these games or any other games, of course, don't forget to stop by and check out winnersandwhiners.com. Deep dives into every game every single day. Always there, always free. Winnersandwhiners.com. And for myself, for Scott Reichel, for all of us over here at Winners and Winers, appreciate you guys watching today. Wish you nothing but the best of luck on all of your plays today. Hope every one of those tickets in your pocket turns into cash money back at the window. You guys have a great hump day. Scott, stay out of the sun. And we'll be back to see you tomorrow on Today in Sports Betting. Take care, everybody.